Alright, so in just a couple of days on Tuesday on Global, we are gonna get the 2x drop rate rewards for the Demonic Beast battle. It's already out on JP, but basically we're gonna get 2 guaranteed drops of the Wind sources, the River sources, as well as the Twilight sources. So starting next week, it is gonna be a good idea to actually farm out your Holy Relics. So that's why I thought that today I would go over what Holy Relics you should be crafting based on sort of what Holy Relics are the best ones to craft. Now, as you can see, I have crafted most of the Holy Relics, so I kind of know a little bit of what I'm talking about here. Of course, I haven't crafted the Zeller's one, even though it's kind of okay-ish, especially for the latest final boss, but I still feel like I can sort of give you an idea of what Holy Relics you should be crafting. So we're just gonna go ahead here. I've made a tier list here, so basically these ones at the top are the ones you should go for first. These are your like must-have of the must-have ones, because these are gonna be, of course, the Megelda one, because Megelda is gonna help you farm out more Holy Relics. The Jormungand one is kind of maybe not even usable here. All it does is like rank up your cards and cleanses you, so you already get the most benefit from Jormungand without a Holy Relic, but like it's just a nice little bonus. I'm just gonna put her here anyway. And then of course Thonar should also go up here because her Holy Relic of course increases your HP related stats by up to 40%, which is superb. Now then, the must-have list is gonna be, you know, the relics that you have to craft because the units are currently meta, they are usable, you should be going for them, and the Holy Relics actually make them really good. Now, the useful or situational are sort of relics that either make a unit usable, or the units are currently really good in a very specific type of content where their Holy Relics will help them shine. And we'll go over that in just a bit. So, and the other one, where I say stat stick, it's basically units that are situationally usable where the Holy Relic doesn't really help them. Like, this isn't a tier list of like how good the units are, and you will see that once we actually get into it, but basically how good the Holy Relics are and whether or not you should be going for those Holy Relics first or get them last. So for example, Alione, you should get his last. The Excalibur Arthur here, I think he's actually useful, and it actually makes him really good because it allows him to tank both the Excalibur Arthurs, both the new one as well as the old one, rely on sort of tanking, and if they can survive with like low HP and fully heal and cleanse, that's superb for whatever it is that they are going to be used for. He isn't all that useless, honestly, and we are getting more and more human characters as time progresses. He will be, of course, continue to be usable. I would say that his Holy Relic is sort of up here, and this one, I don't think he's actually up there. So, I mean, it can be situational. I'll just put him here anyway. Like, it's not a stat stick per se, because if you don't have like the perfect units for like auto farming the gold dungeon, he is really good because he applies a debuff that like lowers the enemy's defense. I think that is what his Holy Relic does. Actually, I just looked it up and it's defense related stats, so that's like even better, but he is useful. Now this Ban here, yeah, he is, as a unit is useful, but his Holy Relic is not. And what I mean by that is his Holy Relic only increases his damage dealt to the enemies by 25%, which isn't super great. He is still usable as like a core part of the King Patience team, where you're basically gonna use King Shield against the Wolf boss as well as like against the first floor of the Nidhogger boss. But is his relic really that usable? Will he patience the wolves on most of the fights? And you can always like attack the little wolf to like at least deal some damage with him if you kind of need to get Thonar's passive going, right? So is he really that usable? I would say no, it's more of a stat stick for him, and that is why we are gonna keep it here. So now Nunchuck's Bounce Relic is just straight up a waste. Like, I tried him out in 4v4, especially this one doesn't really work that well anymore. Not gonna lie, especially if you're facing up against an Esterosa. As soon as he gets his snatch buff and attacks, he's just gonna lose the snatch buff. It's hilarious. This Ban, currently, he's not really that usable. I did try him out with the Arthur, didn't work out that well. I did try out Arthur with the new Ban, worked out better. So Arthur is most definitely above this Ban in terms of like Holy Relic status. In 2023, right? It's already June, like, so 6 months have already passed. This Ban is not really that usable. The Holy Relic, and I mean his Holy Relic, of course, but him as a unit as well. He's not completely useless, but it's not really that great either. You should most definitely prioritize anyone above him in terms of like what sort of Holy Relics you should craft. I would say Brunhild is about here. She is usable in quite a lot of content, so she works on the deer, she works on the wolf, she works on the bird, she works on the knighthood boss battle as well. And in terms of PvP, like in 4v4 situations or with like the Ragnarok team, the Wedding Brunhild is still kind of nice, though you don't really see the Ragnarok team all that much in PvP anymore, of course, not since the One Ultimate came out. Still though, Now, in the new Hero Arena game mode, she is actually quite usable, so being able to only be applied with one debuff is very helpful, because even in situations where we're facing off against the new Ban, if he debuffs you with one attack, like I think, because she can only have one debuff with her Holy Relic, Ban's passive debuff actually overwrites his, you know, tech debuff, so he will not have like 100% crit chance against her, and he will have his damage reduced if he actually attacks her with his snipe card, so it's very nice. Now for this Eastin, she's not very useful, but I would still maybe put her here, and like she can be used on the human teams, but her Holy Relic isn't even the greatest ever, so I would just put her here, get her last, honestly. Pretty much any of the 7 catastrophe units should go down here, except for maybe Lilia. I think hers is quite usable anyway. Now we get into a sort of weird situation here where the one Escanor has a really bad Holy Relic, but ignores 30% of the enemy's defense when using skills in PvP. This isn't the best item, you know, but maybe if he gets an LR upgrade, right? Because currently the first LR unit was of course the first festival unit. Now if we go by that, Escanor is either like the 3rd or the 4th festival unit, so he's due for a LR unit maybe like later this year or something. We'll see how often they are gonna release like LR units. But his Holy Relic as it is right now is most definitely useless. In the future it could be a must-have relic, right? They could potentially even change what it does if they completely redesign his kit or something. But as on right now, I don't think he is very useful, neither is this Escanor. This Guild Thunder though, it's more of a stat stick. Like the unit himself is of course useful. Like you can use Escanor in like the bird boss battle, right? Or the demonic beast battles because of his death type ultimate. His Holy Relic isn't useful. That's what this tier list is for. His, like, it's still situational, but it doesn't help him. It's just basically a stat stick. I think that's the same for Escanor. Maybe I'll put him here. It's basically just a stat stick for a unit that's not that super great. Although I feel like Escanor should go down here, but yeah, you know what? This Guild Thunder, like if you're gonna run the defense team, his Holy Relic isn't really gonna help him other than like give you a little bit more stats in PvP. But granted, you're running the defense team who are probably running like triple defense gear. You have him in the back who is an SR unit with terrible CC. Like it's just a stat stick, honestly. So get it if you want to. It's not useful either way, but yeah. And now we actually come to the one that is actually useful. So that is Gophers. He's really, really good on the Knighthood boss battle and stuff like that. And actually really good in PvP as well. Like you can pair him up with new Transcendent Ban and maybe Diane. And yeah, once you get his Holy Relic passive where he's going to increase your attack related stats by 25% for all your units, that's really great. Like he's a must-have Holy Relic, especially for the bird boss. And these are all sort of sorted for the bird, then the deer, then the wolves, and finally the Nidhogger boss. So up to and including Zaratras is where the bird boss relics end. So there's 33 relics to go through just to like complete the bird boss. Then it's the deer boss relics, and then, you know, the wolf boss relics after that, followed by the Nidhogger boss relics, starting with Diane and ending with Zeldris. Gopher, most definitely useful. This Gopher, I wouldn't even get it. Like it's just a stat stick. He is usable currently, so it's just a stat stick. Griamore, no. Like all of these units can just go here. They aren't really that useful. This Lilia though, as for her Holy Relic, like I would honestly put it here. I kind of want to put it here as it being just a stat stick, but it's not, because it's actually usable for her. Like it makes or breaks the unit. Like without the Holy Relic, she's completely useless. Now she's at least a little bit usable. Like I can see situations where you can use her. One of them being the Hero Arena, of course. Maybe not in like the top 2 difficulties of the Hero Arena, but most definitely in the 3rd difficulty where you can use links and stuff like that. She is usable in the 7 Catastrophes team, so that is nice there. I honestly wouldn't get hers. He is like he all crushes, and that could be maybe usable with like the Ragnarok melee, but honestly I'm not even gonna put it there. There's no way. Merlin's though, it's just a stat stick. Like lowering the enemy's HP is nothing. This Merlin, like I'm gonna put it here. Like she's not completely useless, and the Holy Relic actually increases her attack by 20% when attacking a debuffed enemy, so that's kind of nice. I'm also gonna put this Merlin, the Ultrash Merlin, is kind of in between here. Like if you're Ultrashing with an unknown unit, that's gonna increase the unknown unit's damage dealt. Was it by 20 or 30%? And that's not completely useless. So I mean, yeah, I'm gonna put it as a stat stick. Like it's not really something you want to increase your CC with, because for the Ultrash team, of course, you're gonna run like one of the level 1 units just to Ultrash, but it's not completely useless. And if you have her in the back of an Ultrash team on Brawl, where perhaps you're using a 6/6 Reamer or something, like she's most definitely useful there. The Mono, I feel like, was she useful against the final boss Escanor with her Holy Relic, or did Escanor become immune to the corrosion debuff that she places? If that's the case, then she is a useful unit, or the Holy Relic is a useful tool for her, but very, very situational. But yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna put her here for now. That you're gonna get her last. If she can actually debuff the Escanor with the corrosion thing, then she should go here. Otherwise here, it doesn't really matter, honestly, for like the bottom units anyway. I kind of want to put her here, honestly. Like it increases her stats, yeah, I know, but as a unit in the Hero Arena, 47 Catastrophe teams, and if we're gonna put Lilia here for that very reason, like he deals more damage with AoE than Lilia. She hits so hard in 4v4 situation, this green one specifically, that her Holy Relic, which just increases her stats, is the same as like Lulu Dociel's one, right? And it just increases her stats. So it's literally a stat stick. But in terms of like, I don't know if it actually makes or breaks the unit. That's why I'm a little bit confused here. I'm just gonna put her here. Like, you don't really need to get it. I feel like go for Gophers first, just to, you know, increase your CC, because Gopher is gonna be useful in PvP and stuff like that. She, though, just for the hero arena, you probably don't need the CC, but like the extra damage is of course nice anyway. Shin, though, I'm gonna put him as useful, because if you don't have like the best auto gold farming team with Philo and Red Brunhild and Kyo, then a combo of like Shin and the green Arthur with the Holy Relic and maybe something like King could be really, really nice there for you, just to auto farm the gold dungeon really quickly. He's not part of the best team, but I still think his Holy Relic is useful, because it's basically gonna increase his damage dealt to debuffed enemies, so that's really nice. Now Sigurd, like what, it increases his stats based on like the stats of the enemy, so something like that in PvP. Let's have a look. At the start of battle in PvP, increase the hero's basic stats by 25% or the basic stats of the enemy with the highest CC. Okay, I would say it's not really that useful. Like, it's a stat stick, and that's what I'm gonna say it at. Like, if you're gonna use him, then of course it's gonna make or break the unit, because it's gonna make him better. It's sort of a stat stick. It's at least above like most of these other units anyway, and it's not like completely useless. In Hero Arena, I had great success with him and Traitor Melee in like an Amplify team, and then having his Holy Relic there to increase his stats was really helpful. Slater, though, might be a actually usable unit in certain content, but his Holy Relic isn't really usable. Like, you don't need his Holy Relic. Twigo, on the other hand, I'm gonna put him here. During the Whale PvP tournament, like, one of the JP players actually had a Twigo in the front on like the Archangel team or whatever. Like, he's still usable in certain like Alt Rush teams and stuff like that, so most definitely his Holy Relic is really good. I'm gonna say no to her Holy Relic, no to her Holy Relic. Zaratras is sort of, I mean, it's, oh no, it's just for PvP, isn't it? Yeah, it's just for PvP. There's no way. I was gonna go like, yeah, his, like, you can use him in the Belmoth boss, right? But his Holy Relic is just a stat stick at that point. And it's completely useless because you don't need it for that. Okay, so Elat, though. Oh god. Should I put her here? Like, the Holy Relic is useful for her because it's gonna increase your damage dealt by 30% when you apply a shock to enemy. She is usable on the Bond team, and if you go by the assumption that the older festival units are gonna get LR units first, then of course King is either the second one. Does Liz count as a festival unit? Like her, does she count as a festival unit? Otherwise, King is the next one. So, and if he is the next one, this Elaine will actually be good, but she's still usable for the Bond team. If you want to go sort of a heavy debuff Bond team, she's usable there by the Relic, because it's going to increase your damage by 30% when the enemies have a shock on them. Like, her passive increases your damage dealt by 30% when her little debuff that she applies with her passive is on the enemies, but when you attack them, that debuff turns into a shock debuff. So if you don't have a Holy Relic, like, you lose out on the 30% damage dealt there. But if you do have it, you're just gonna always have a 30% damage dealt with any sort of unit that you have on the field. So that's really nice. Helbram, I'm gonna say, is actually useful, and I'm only saying that because in the situation that you want to use him on, which is like a very specific Knighthood boss battle where you have like the mission where you kind of want to finish it off with a fairy unit, so you have King to stall out with the shield and you want to finish it off with King, having the 25% basic stat increase is really nice. So having him here isn't the worst thing either. So I'm gonna put him here. Fat King, no. Yeah, I'm gonna put him here. I almost want to put him here if his Holy Relic is really good for when he gets an LR. It might be. It might be like the same situation with Lostwayne, where King through his Holy Relic of course applies bleed, and with his AoE attack applies poison. And if they add like a thing in his LR kit that's gonna apply shock as well, then you'll have like poison, bleed, shock, and you will be able to deal a lot of like release damage with this card instantly by just attacking like this and then that, right? You attack with one card and the next. If his LR is super good, then you will need his Holy Relic just to apply bleed whenever you use an AoE skill. So if they make him like a one-man army where you can apply shock instantly without having to have this Elaine, then his Holy Relic is of course gonna be really usable. I kind of want to put him here, but I would honestly say wait, because it could be super good. Like, he is gonna probably get an LR soon, if we go by the assumption again that the old festival units are gonna get the LRs first. But they might have just given Lostwayne his LR form first, because, you know, it's a Meliodas unit, it's an older Meliodas unit, and they sort of just wanted to hype up the community or whatever. So maybe that's why they did it, but yeah, we will just put him here for now. This King, no. Liz, again, if she gets an LR, she's gonna be maybe there or here still. Like, she is useful in the Archangel team. She's useful in other teams as well. Like, her shield being stronger through her Holy Relic is a really good thing. This Liz, also, I'm gonna put her here. Like, you can use her as a backline unit in a lot of teams, because it's gonna increase your teammates' HP-related stats by 15%, and she also heals from the back if you're using this Red bad as our Liz. So anytime she heals, she's also gonna heal for more because of the HP related stats. So that's really nice. She gives you basic stats, right? By 30%. No, she actually gives herself basic stats. So it's just a stat stick. She's usable in some content, in like some final boss or whatever. Otherwise, like I kind of want to put her here at the very bottom. She could be usable with the stat stick, but you don't really see her used that much. Not that much as like some of the other units. So I'm just gonna put her here. Honestly, don't see her often either, but you kind of see her nowadays anyway. Like if you want to do the hero arena, which is a really fun team to do. That may be just my bias because I did a video on it, but yeah, whatever. Luda Margaret, her Holy Relic isn't really needed. It's just a stat stick. It's gonna make her deal a little bit more damage, right? For each like Archangel on the field and take a little bit less damage. Was it by 5%? It's not really needed for the Knighthood boss battle because it's not gonna increase your basic stats and stuff like that. So I would say not needed. Here I'm gonna say useful situational. Like you don't see him often, but when you actually want to use him in PvP, you do want to have his Holy Relic because it's gonna increase his stats. And of course, because of his passive, the more stats he has, and if he can like out CC the enemies, he will reduce their defense related stats by 30%, or was it just defense stats? Whatever it is, you're gonna be able to hit the enemies a lot harder turn 1 if you can out CC the enemies. It is a ticking time bomb though, because more and more units are releasing, they have higher and higher CC. They will all out CC him, so it is very like he could be here in a month's time, 2 months time. But currently, I would say it's still useful. I do still see him in PvP, so it's most definitely not useless, you know. But you do need to have Ludo built out. Now, in terms of like Holy Relics, I feel like this Sariel's one is useful for like Knighthood boss battles because he increases basic stats of, was it himself? Yeah, I think it's of himself by up to 40%. So it's not all that useless, but I do feel like he doesn't crit as often as he should. There's like one extreme difficulty Knighthood boss battle you can use him on that's really, really nice because you do kind of want his basic stats, but other than that, like, it's not that great. Next up, Sariel. I feel like for the Archangels, in whatever it is that they are used for, this is the suboptimal team by using these two, right, in the front, or Sariel in the front and Tarmin in the back. They sort of synergize very well with their Holy Relics. Still not that great, you know. In terms of like what Archangel team you want to run, of course, Mile to the Margaret, and this Liz in the front and then Nanashi in the back. That's sort of the team you want to run. If you don't have those units and you don't have their Holy Relics, then of course you can run these, and then maybe these two Holy Relics would be more useful for you, but other than that, I don't think so. I want to put his Holy Relic here. He's really good as like a backline unit or a frontline unit actually for Brawl. If you put him on a team and you face off against an Ultrash team, that's GG for the Ultrash team, you know. You can have other teams as well to counter Ultrash teams like the Human team with the Halloween Easton in the back, of course, just to remove Alt Gauge Orb. That also works, but I want to say his Holy Relic is really nice for Brawl specifically, so it's very situational, but that's why I'm putting him here. So if you want it for that particular, you know, purpose, then of course craft it. Chandler, I'm gonna put him as a must-have. Like, I feel like, yeah, the Demon team with the Ominous Nebula Zeldris in the front, and of course like the Chandler in the back or whatever, or Cusack if you want that, is better, but like I kind of like the Demon team with Chandler in the front and the Festival Zeldris in the back a lot more. So his Holy Relic, if you want to have him in the front, is most definitely great to have. Cusack though, I'm gonna put him here. I kind of want to put him here like it's a stat stick, but it's not really a stat stick because unless you have it in the situation where you want to use him, which is basically like a bird boss, deer boss, or whatever you want to use him for, because he does hit quite hard with like single target attacks. His Holy Relic is needed because he's gonna increase his crit damage by 80%, and you know, he has one of the cards that is 75% increased damage based on his crit damage, so you most definitely want his Holy Relic if you want to use him for that. Diane, I'm gonna also put her as useful situational. She can be used on like a Ragnarok team, of course. Like the Ragnarok team in PvP isn't really that great anymore, but you know what, we have Tyr just around the corner. He could be a PvP unit that, you know, Ragnarok Diane would shine, and her Holy Relic would be super good because she prevents you from taking more than 50% of your max HP in one hit with her Holy Relic, and also increase your attack related stats by 1% for every 6% of remaining HP when using a skill. So that is for herself, I guess, but it's most definitely useful. It's not really that useful for the OG Demon Diane, but for this Ragnarok Diane specifically, it's very useful. And I'm gonna put her here. I'm gonna put him here as well. Like, his Relic on paper is good, but you don't really see him used anymore ever. Her Relic, like, also, like, you don't see her used, even though she is a Demonic Beast unit, so it's basically a stat stick for her. And I'm saying Demonic Beast unit, like, she's used in the Demonic Beast team, right? So it's basically a stat stick, but I honestly don't feel like you should craft it, unless of course it's like one of the last ones that you can craft, so just hold off on that. Kings though, I'm gonna put it at a must-have. Increasing your basic stats, like, it's usable in PvP with the new ban, of course, but it's also like usable in Knighthood boss battle, because if you have a shield up, you're gonna have your basic stat increased, and the more basic stat that you have at the end of the run, the more points you're gonna get. So having his shield up as you kill like Knighthood boss battle or final boss battle or whatever you want to use him on is super good. The Matrona here, I'm actually gonna put her at useful because in some of the Knighthood boss battles, she is very useful, of course, because she's gonna increase your basic stats by 25% through her passive, and then another 25% through the Holy Relic. And even if you just put her on the red Matrona just for running like the bird boss, this sort of course means that, say you can't complete the bird boss, but you can complete Skull and Hati just to craft it. So in terms of like Skull and Hati relics, I would put her at like very low on the list. But in terms of like usefulness, I'm just gonna put it here. I kind of want to put her here, like, but I also kind of want to put her here. Her Holy Relic increased the AoE damage dealt of 7 catastrophe units, and on the green one, she basically does no like AoE damage. She's basically single target focus. The blue one you kind of don't want to use in PvP anyway. The green one is kind of useful because she like debuffs the enemies as well. And if you're gonna run her with like the 7 catastrophe teams, you're of course gonna run her with Lilia. Lilia of course does most of her damage with her single target card, not her AoE card, even though her AoE card hits quite hard. So you don't really want to use her there, or that relic there. If you want to use it for like the hero arena, which is like a 4v4 situation with this Roxy here, like of course then that could be useful because Roxy deals a lot more damage if you do have this Holy Relic also. But other than that, I would just wait with crafting it. It's not really all that useful anyway. Nanashi though, yeah, he's just a must-have. I almost want to put him here like get first, but he's just a must-have. Like for so many teams in the back, it's just a godsend, this relic. Skadi though, I kind of want to put it here, but I kind of want to put it here because it's of course just a little bit of a stat stick. You don't really need it, but again, like in Knighthood boss battle and stuff like that, the more stats that you have by the end of the run, the more points you're gonna get. Is it really needed though? Like, kind of want to put these two here as well. Like you don't really need them, but then again, if you look at most of these units, I feel like these are worth more to craft, but they're still a little bit less than most of the other units in this row here. Maybe I should just make another tier between these two, but whatever, we'll just keep it like that. Now if you're gonna use this Chandler here, you kind of also want to use this Zeldris in the back. Now this Zeldris in the back, of course, like for every debuff is gonna increase your basic stats by up to 24%. Not for every debuff, for every debuff is like 3%, but up to 24% basic stat increase. And it's also gonna reduce the enemy's attack related stats by 10% with this Holy Relic. So it's basically negating whatever Ragnarok Ban brings to the table as like a backline unit. Just straight up, if an enemy is debuffed, they have their attack related stats reduced. Diane, I'm also gonna put her here. Like, it's a must-have Holy Relic now. It's really good, and she's so good on the Transcendent Ban team. So you most definitely want to get her. Fraudrin, I just wouldn't bother with it. Like, you don't want to increase his stats. You want him to die. And the other Fraudrin isn't usable either. Melascula Relic, I think, is situational. She can most definitely be useful in PvP. Or maybe it's just a YouTuber thing. Like, you just use her to have like one of your units die and increase her all stats by 25% or whatever the Holy Relic does. And then that unit just pops off. It's just a showcase thing. I actually have a Holy Relic. When I've used it, like, no one actually kills the unit I want them to kill. So it's completely useless anyway. This melee, I feel like it's not just a stat stick. It actually makes him good, but it's not really that super usable. I used him a couple of weeks ago and it worked out amazingly well. So maybe he still works in some capacity, but it's most definitely way below like Purg melee or the new LR Lost Vein melee, of course. Lost Vein melee, I kind of want to get first. It's gonna increase his damage dealt by up to 50% when he has, you know, full Ultimate Orb. He kind of underperforms as like a super free to play unit. If you get him LR and you don't have his Holy Relic, he's not super great, but he can still pop off, you know. But with the Holy Relic, he's of course gonna increase his damage dealt by 50%. That's like a Ludo Margot gold card. And because he has like an attack that increases his Ultimate Orbs whenever he uses the attack by either 1 or 2 at silver or gold, he's gonna have his cards ranked up constantly if he's like crit. So I kind of want to put him here, but he's basically here. It's a must-have. Get these first so you can farm it out and then get his. Though these are all 4 separate like demonic beasts. So I also forgot one additional unit here. I'm gonna talk about it soon. I forgot to add it to the list. Ominous Nebula Zeldris, I feel like he's a must-have, and this Zeldris is kind of situational in the current final boss. Other than that, I don't see any use for him, so it's basically down here for him with his Holy Relic, especially because it's a Nidhogger Holy Relic. Maybe it's here. Like, it's not a stat stick, but it's basically here. So I'm just gonna put him here, but after the final boss ascended, like, he goes down here, just straight up. But for now, while the final boss is still up, he's up here. Now, on the ones that I've forgotten, Freya. So I don't have like an icon for Freya, so we're just gonna talk about it. If you have like super built out Mael and you want to be able to do like floor 2 or 3 with her, like, of course there's other teams that can do it without using her, but she makes it easier for like the Argentine. If that is the sort of team that you want to go for, then I would say it is a must-have. Otherwise, just wait, because we are getting the tier. He might also be a demonic beast unit for the Nidhogger boss. As you know, all the demonic beast units are Ragnarok units, so Megelda, Jormungand, Thonar, and maybe Tyr. So either she's up here if you want to use her for that, otherwise like just wait and craft it later. And I don't think I actually missed anyone else on this list, so yeah. But anyway, that's the tier list. Let me know what you think about my tier list. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Sound off down in the comments below. But yeah, with that, I think that's gonna be it for me. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a most wonderful rest of your day, and I guess I catch you in the next one. Bye.